and that each of those two halves of the book of Isaiah, 33 chapters each, divided into 7 parts that paralleled one another like this, and those 7 parts were like different genres of the book of Isaiah, like historical material, biographical material. It turned out to be way more than just a loose parallelism that got me going on all my research. I did 10 more years of postdoctoral work on that very same literature structure, and found it was a prophecy and a theology both. The prophecy was of an end time scenario. It totally converted the whole book of Isaiah into an end time scenario, as well as being historical, but in which the historical parts act as an allegory of the end time. And it had a complete theology of the fullness of the gospel, even richer than we have in the New Testament, because it's completely like instead of salvation, exaltation, we'll have suffering before salvation, or humiliation before exaltation, ruin before rebirth, punishment before deliverance, and that give a much fuller context to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I discovered a whole layer of multiple structures overlaid over that 7-part structure. That 7-part structure I call a synchronous structure, because it takes the whole book of Isaiah as a single entity, as a single scenario, in which the historical parts, like I said, serve as an allegory of the end time. But it's an end time scenario. And then the other literary structures that are overlaid from beginning to end of the book, they are linear structures that follow a timeline from Isaiah's day to the end time, of the coming of the Lord to reign on the earth. Well, that aspect of academia more like a terrestrial exercise, not a celestial exercise. It's on a certain level, and Isaiah doesn't like it. Isaiah can see it in the future. And that does not have kind things to say.
Isaiah talks about this?
Oh, yeah. He doesn't have kind things to say about the wise and the learned. You probably read some of that. Yeah. He uses amazing satire, by the way. He's so funny at times. But yes, so there's a whole... Now, literary criticism is a good thing. I mean, literary analysis is the key to understanding the book of Isaiah on several levels. One of them is a structural level, like the 7-part structure, because each literary structure has its own message over and above what you read on the surface. So Isaiah uses all of these means to communicate more truth, the truths of God. If you believe them, then yes, it's important to know those tools for understanding Isaiah. And there's also typology in the sense that history repeats itself. Ancient history repeats itself. The Hebrew worldview is cyclical, not linear, not in a straight line. History repeats itself on an ever grander scale in the end time. So, for example, I discovered 30 ancient events that Isaiah uses around which to prophesy new versions of these ancient events as part of an end time scenario. So they're all going to happen, and when they happen, they're like dominoes. They'll fall one after the other, after the other, after the other. And then there is word links and keywords and code names. It's also the key to understanding Isaiah in a beautiful way. And it's all part of the manner of the Jews that Nephi said was, an important element for understanding the words of Isaiah. And when you do, not only does the whole book of Isaiah open up to your understanding, but also all the scriptures do in relation to Isaiah, because Isaiah is like the centerpiece of a big tapestry of scriptures, and all of them relate to each other through Isaiah. You really need to understand Isaiah first before you understand the Book of Mormon. The Book of Isaiah is key, and that's why it's a commandment to search it, and searching is not just reading or studying. It means you really have to dig in and make the connections that are in the Book of Isaiah, and it's a deliberate challenge, and if you don't take on the challenge, you're going to lose out in the coming times. I'm testifying of that. But you're wrong on the fact that people don't understand it. There are among us, Greg, in the Isaiah Institute, and those who've read my books over the last few years who do understand it, and they're just full of joy about it. The Lord has made Isaiah a deliberate challenge. He raised up Isaiah to do that. And a deliberate challenge for people in the end time, in our day, right now, when things are beginning to explode around us, right, with these wars and rumors of wars. This is the time. Isaiah is the prophet of the end time. This is the time to get into Isaiah and learn it and understand it. And it'll open up all the things that are coming upon us now, and there'll be no surprises, and you'll know exactly what to do, and you'll know exactly, what spiritual level you're on and what you're striving for to the next spiritual level, from terrestrial to celestial, and those who will survive and those who won't survive, and where to go. There's a call out in the wilderness, and there's a whole slew of these events are going to happen again. A new Passover, a new Exodus out of Babylon for the house of Israel. We need to know who we are as Latter-day Saints. We need to know that we are identified with the Gentiles, as the prophet Joseph Smith said in the Kirtland Temple Dedicatory Prayer, and as the Book of Mormon tells us we are. The gospel is restored to the Gentiles. From the Gentiles, it goes back to the house of Israel. But it goes to the house of Israel through a specific category of Gentiles that Isaiah names the kings and queens of the Gentiles in Isaiah 49, 22, and 23, which Nephi and Jacob pounce upon that because it's their lifeline to their end-time descendants. And we're the ones to restore them. These spiritual kings and queens of the Gentiles, which are the Ephraimites who have the birthright role, need to perform that birthright role and restore the house of Israel, the Jews, the 10 tribes, and Lamanites of today. And so are we doing it? No, we're not even aware that that's what it's all about. It's just a pity. And you're right. Isaiah himself says, you've heard the whole vision. Why don't you even mention it? You don't even mention it. And those who do mention it stay on safe soil, so to speak, by quoting just a few things that, that couldn't get too controversial, like fasting, Isaiah 59, 58, stuff like that. But no, the whole picture is huge and it needs to be learned. If we don't learn it, we're going to be in a bad case when the real serious stuff starts dropping around us. It's the difference between a saved state and an exalted state. If you just want to not dabble in Isaiah, not even get that too excited about it, or if you don't even think that Christ is coming in our day, or possibly that we're nearing the end time, if you knew Isaiah, you know that we are definitely near the end, very near the end time, or almost in the end time. But if you're not interested in that, and you just want to play it safe and stay in your comfort zone, you may have a remission of your sins and attain a saved state, but no way you're going to attain an exalted state if you're not keeping the commandment to search the words of Isaiah.